You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. So this morning we're greeted with the monstrous appearance of Hurricane Beryl, which is rapidly intensifying and is now a Category 3 major hurricane, and indications from recon flights that are in the storm right now suggest that it could still be well on its way up and could be reaching Category 4 status fairly soon. I don't have the actual specifics, but some of my team do, and we'll be talking to them in a little bit. Right now it's heading westerly, or maybe very slightly north of west, and it is headed towards the Lesser Antilles, the Windward Islands, which appear to be likely to get slammed by this storm, and it's going to be very powerful by the time it gets there tonight and early tomorrow morning. Indications show that it could be a low to maybe mid-range Category 4 by the time it reaches the Lesser Antilles, and will remain very strong into the Eastern Caribbean, and will probably stay at hurricane status all the way through the Caribbean Sea now, as it gets close to places like Jamaica later on in the forecast, and then eventually the Yucatan Peninsula. What a busy day, a couple of days it's going to be here. My name's Nathan Foy here in the studio, and we are talking about this storm, of course, in real time. With my team right now, we have quite a few people with us. We have Maury, Jose, Cesar, Gio, Jack, and Orlando. What we've also got with us are a few viewpoints as well. Here's one of the cameras over in Barbados right now, and you can see that the view there is still pretty clear and calm, it has to be said, but that is not a big surprise, because when the storm arrives we expect it's going to be, considering that Beryl is still relatively small, especially for its intensity, and moving rather quickly at 20 miles per hour, it's going to swipe through here without much visible warning. It will appear very quickly later on this evening. Alright then, let's first, I think Orlando probably has the best info on recon, unless I'm mistaken. Do you want to go ahead with what you've got right now?
So currently Reconnaissance has 2 flights going on right now. An Air Force flight is just taking off actually into 94L.
Yes,
so that's
the other
still
one
going on. But there is there's a NOAA flight currently inside Beryl, as well as an Air Force flight. Both are part of the Hurricane Hunters. We'll be seeing soon, hopefully, a dropson reading from the center of the storm, because the Air Force flight just intercepted the center, heading from the southeastern quadrant to the northwestern quadrant. So we'll see anything about that soon. So far the strongest dropson reading so far we've seen is about 113 knots. So still intensifying, pressure still falling, definitely continuing rapid intensifications right now.
What's the minimum pressure that we've seen now? We went with 964 on our update. I know they caught that earlier. Is that still the lowest?
I think as of right now, we'll probably have to wait on seeing whatever dropson has that's just coming in from the Air Force flight. But we probably won't see that for the next maybe 15 minutes or so.
Now, it's worth noting that we are running 120 miles per hour, 964 millibars right now with its intensity. National Hurricane Center's last advisory was 115 and a pressure of 968. We expect that there could be further upgrades that will occur at the next advisory, which of course is at the end of the hour. We are here for just the hour on this particular stream, but I expect and fully expect that we're going to be having much more coverage later on. We're trying to figure out exactly how we're going to schedule all of this, because to have the most impact, given that the storm will be passing close to the islands, possibly overnight. but it's looking more like actually it will be in the morning hours tomorrow. So I think what we might end up doing is a stream at the same time slot tonight that we had last night, but maybe a bit shorter, and then wake up earlier tomorrow and run coverage as it moves close to these islands. So let's just switch back to that National Hurricane Center cone again. It used the intermediate advisory, which is pretty much on track with what the previous forecast had. And so you can quite clearly see there that it depicts the storm making its closest pass to Barbados in the early hours of Monday morning, 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. By the way, it has to be shown here that, or noted, that by now the storm has been shifting just a little bit southwards to the point where it just any further south, and it's probably going to end up being closer to Tobago than it will be to Barbados. And they issued a hurricane warning there in Tobago earlier on. Obviously, they were under a tropical storm warning earlier, and that's been upgraded. Still no warnings of any kind for actually Trinidad yet, but you can see all of those zones under hurricane warnings. And Barbados, obviously hoping for more southerly shifts, and they might just get away without hurricane force winds. What does it mean for the other line of islands? Well, at the moment it looks like the potential landfall location will be some of the small islands of the Grenadines between St. Vincent and Grenada. But all of those islands are expecting hurricane force winds, and hurricane warnings extending as far north as St. Lucia, of course, also under that right now. A little bit further north, we have a tropical storm warning still in effect for Martinique, and there's a view from Martinique right now, and quite a few people out and about still actually on those little boats, but it's getting a little bit breezier there, and I can't quite tell what the weather's actually looking like. The sun's out, but it looks awfully hazy over there in Martinique today, this location under that tropical storm warning. Who else would like to speak next on our team there? Jose, you with us?
Yes, sir.
Now, you're showing us a view, or I thought you were looking at satellite imagery. You're showing that the National Hurricane Center now with its view of... In fact, I've just got to rejig the settings here to get you visible. We're also joined by Justin right now as well. Just hold on for a sec whilst we look at Jose's map. That's the earliest reasonable time of arrival for tropical storm force winds there.
Yes. Well, pretty much, I'm not sure if none of the times have changed yet, but it looks the same as before. Mostly right now, the arrival tropical storm force winds will be probably like around Monday 2 a.m.
Yep, early hours of Monday morning.
And then not late. Same thing, early Monday mornings for the
The Lesser Antilles, Leeward Islands are further north there as well. It's more the Windward Islands down here. But you can see there that the forecast shows that probably just around midnight maybe for Barbados to get its first storm force winds. Same for Tobago, maybe more towards 2 a.m. But certainly by daybreak, all of those islands should be seeing those tropical storm force winds. Justin, you've joined us, so let's have a on-the-spot reaction to what you're seeing this morning with this monstrous storm clearing out its eye in quite some style there.
Honestly, I'm not surprised that I woke up to Beryl being a Category 3 this morning. With the way it's been strengthening since yesterday, I actually had a really big feeling this was going to happen, and sure enough it did. So I'm honestly not surprised Beryl's a major right now.
Well, the signs were there, but how much further is it going to go?
I mean, NHC now forecasts a Cat 4 out of it, so...
Rightly so. It might be a Category 4 sooner than we think. Is there any indication supporting that on the recon flights?
I haven't looked at recon yet. Give me a moment.
Hello.
I know other people have. Ethan's also joining us right now as well. Hello, Ethan. Good morning.
Good morning.
What are your thoughts on Beryl?
Well, for starters, it's likely a Category 4 now, for starters.
But have Recon caught that, or is it just the appearance that you're
Yes.
looking? Okay.
Recon Recon flew into Beryl and got. Basically, the aircrafts have a product called the SFMR. I think it's called the Step Frequency Microwave. I don't know. Let me look up the
It's a
abbreviation of
mouthful
it.
anyway.
Yeah.
But long story short, the
But,
SFMRs are able to actually read outside the plane the wind speeds, but there was also a drop sond reading that had, I believe, 113.
Yeah, the Eastern Eyewall drop
on.
sign at 113 knot winds.
Yeah.
Stepped frequency microwave radiometer.
There you go.
So basically, what it is it is a product, like I said, that's on the wings of the aircraft that looks down into the storm. It estimates the winds at the surface from flight level. Now, there has been known to be some higher biases with the winds as you get higher up in the winds. So that's partially why, they're doing research behind the scenes. There's been very extensive research into hurricanes like Matthew, Iota, Irma, and the likes of those, because those had notoriously high SFMR values.
Yep.
Not saying that we're going to be seeing that with this storm at all, but just say that that the SFMRs, as they get higher, maybe a little bit on the high side of things. Now, with that being said, one of the recent recon passes that we had did get a SFMR winds of 115 knots. I don't think we've had any flight level winds higher than 115 knots, which would be ideally what we would look for a Category 4. Albeit, with that being said, those passes were about half an hour ago, so no reason to assume that even if it was 125 miles per hour at those passes, no reason to assume that it's intensified 5 miles per hour since then.
Yeah, look, Ethan, looks like the highest flight level one was about 110 knots.
Yeah,
Give or
I'm
take.
noticing
Yeah,
that.
maybe a little bit higher than that, but I mean, it's roughly about where I'd expect for this storm if it was a high Cat 3, low Cat 4.
Now, unconfirmed, but there are rumblings that the National Hurricane Center's next advisory will be forecasting a major hurricane all the way through the Caribbean.
Oh boy.
I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I mean, considering that wind shear is not affecting the system nearly as much as we would expect, it does not seem like nothing is going to be stopping this as it makes it to the Yucatan Peninsula.
Yeah,
Oh,
can't
also-
confirm it yet, but from what I've been seeing on early reports here, they may be calling for a Category 3 landfall on the Yucatan.
Oh lord.
Wow.
Also,
And that-
just to get this out of the way, real quick, we also have a Recon flying into 94L now, by the way.
Yes. So there's more than one system active, just so that everyone's aware here. There are other areas that could also develop into tropical storms right now. So first of all, let's try and have a quick look at Invest 94L, if we can bring it up here. There we are. There's some animated imagery of that system right now. It's looking quite decent, actually. Looks like the rotation might need to improve, but it's got a small amount of time before it enters the coast of Veracruz in Mexico. Moving westwards, still blowing up large amounts of cloud tops. They're giving it a moderate chance. Look out towards the east. Of course, there's Beryl, and behind that, maybe another area of interest that could develop. Still not fully sold on whether that will actually become a significant tropical cyclone or not, but certainly the GFS is extremely pushy with it, calling for a second hurricane to follow almost exactly the same track as Beryl. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that.
We'll play it by ear. That's what I would say.
Well, yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like it's going to be a whole season of playing it by ear.
Yeah, speaking of 94L, the NHC does mention that it could become a short-lived tropical depression before it moves inland tomorrow morning.
It could well do. Tropical storm status, maybe not. I didn't see many models pushing it up to 40 miles per hour, but stranger things have happened, and it could be a brief tropical storm, you know.
Yeah. I think the strangest thing we've had happen was the fact that Tropical Storm Julia a few years ago was designated when it was over Florida. That's strange.
Yeah. But even though the track has shifted maybe very slightly southwards, still 82% chance of Barbados getting tropical storm force winds. And for the Grenadines, we're looking at up to 65% chance or more of hurricane force winds there. It looks like it's going to be getting quite a certainty for development there.
Now, do keep in mind that Beryl is an extremely small hurricane as far as hurricanes go, especially in the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific. Right now, according to the National Hurricane Center, hurricane force winds only extend outwards of 15 nautical miles.
Oh,
Wow.
Which is basically the entire eye wall. So you're
and
going to have...
and that's only the furthest quadrants. It's, southwest is 0. According
for
to them.
hurricane force winds?
Yeah, according to their last advisory. Of course, there'll be a new one. They'll probably increase that.
Actually,
Yeah.
according to ATCF, the furthest they go out is 25 nautical miles now for the northeastern and northwestern eye wall.
I
Yeah,
don't know. Chances are that's probably what Recon found.
yeah.
But,
Well, 20 nautical miles for the southwest and southeast sides.
All right.
But that's going to, whenever we would have a large, considerable hurricane pushing off towards the Caribbean islands, say if Beryl was, say, double its size right now, including all of its banding and everything, your time to prepare would really be running out right now. But thankfully, Beryl is a very small hurricane, so you're going to have just a bit more time to prepare. Of course, the time to prepare has already well been underway. And if you aren't doing it right now, well, time is running out. You have probably, I'd say, maybe about 18, 24 hours left to prepare, especially on Barbados and the Grenadines, as well as the island to the south. I believe that's Grenada right there. Grenada. I'm not sure.
And Stanley reckons that Grenada could have the worst impact since Hurricane Ivan. And I suppose that's the measuring stick that you've got to go with for that island, which was impacted by Ivan when it was a Category 3. Certainly well, you look at that latest cone there, and I think that could be the upcoming advisory. I'm not sure yet, Ethan, if that's the new data or not.
No.
You don't?
No, it's not. This is not the upcoming advisory, just because it has a 150-mile-an-hour peak before it moves into the Lesser Antilles.
Ooh.
That's not going to happen.
Well, are you sure? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the way it's going right now. If there was no recon, some satellite estimates might have been near that level.
Well, just saying that the NHC isn't going to forecast anything that high. Do I
Maybe
think that
not.
they will raise the peak on the upcoming forecast cone? Yes, I do. But to what level? I think that they'll probably only go with 145 miles per hour for peak. It's hard to say though, because of course you've got the main caveat, obviously you've got dry air and wind shear in the area. That's going to cause issues for Beryl. But obviously you've got the significant caveat in all tropical cyclones, the eye wall replacement cycle. That is going to be a very challenging thing to forecast. And those things can cause considerable intensity fluctuations in tropical cyclones. Now, with that being said, if Beryl does, say, an eye replacement cycle right now, that would probably give it enough time to start re-intensifying right as it moves over the Leeward Islands, and would probably lead to a slightly stronger storm, and the storm's peak intensity just past the Leeward Islands in the eastern Caribbean Sea before weakening as it pushes off towards the west. At the same time, it could continue to intensify, like it is doing right now, throughout the day-to-day, and not do an eye replacement cycle at all as it moves through the Lesser Antilles, given that it is a small hurricane, and we see something completely different. There's a lot of options that can happen with this storm, and we just have to play it by ear whenever it comes to this eye wall replacement cycle. That's one reason why I wouldn't forecast anything a bit higher than maybe 140, 145 miles per hour, but conditions certainly would support an intensity maybe a little bit higher than that. It wouldn't surprise me, but everything has to go right for the storm if we want it to get up to that intensity, which of course we don't.
Well, of course, no sign of an eye wall replacement cycle yet, by the way. Clearly not. I just want to show you the the view from Barbados right now. This is you can clearly see the island there, and just off the right-hand side, we're starting to see the cloud cover from the outer band of the storm entering the picture. So it's not terribly far away from there at this point. We're looking at a few of those cameras that are active right now. I don't know which directions they're pointing. They're probably pointing away, knowing our luck. I know that most of the cameras in Barbados are concentrated on the western side, but there's a view of the ocean right now looking out. Cloud cover is pretty light, and there's one of our other viewpoints there as well, looking out at just some scattered small cumulus clouds there, but no real sign of this storm on its way yet at all. But the cloud cover will increase. The way I'm looking at this imagery, I expect that you'll start to see that high cirrus reaching you in about maybe 4 hours, maybe slightly less than 4 hours, and after that, the winds will probably start getting up then. But of course, when we look back at the storm's projection here, and you can see it right there, let me zoom out on that. It is still, drifting quite far south. At this trajectory, at this rate, it would end up being quite close to Tobago, and possibly even a landfall or direct hit for Grenada if it keeps going in this direction without being pulled up northwards just a little bit more.
The movement vector in the past few hours, though, Nathan, has changed to a very slight northwest, like very slight, just ever so slightly north of due west at this point. Earlier, it was a little bit south of forecast, but it does seem that with the recent advisory, I think it was number 7A, I believe, that forecast track to the next forecast point, it does seem to be, at least to me, on track at this point. And my most likely island for a big hit would probably be the small islands in between Grenada and St. Vincent.
Oh yeah,
that would be my biggest push for that. It's a bit hard to say exactly what intensity the storm will be whenever it passes over there. Certainly a major hurricane, at least. But a question of what intensity and what kind of impacts are going to happen, too. This isn't going to be... One thing that we can rule out is, this isn't going to be your Dorian. This isn't going to be a Harvey. This isn't going to be an Irma. It's not going to be this major, wind-driven 180 mile an hour plus heavy rain, 50 inches of rain. It's not going to be 50 inches. That won't be anywhere close.
No.
Plus rainfall storm. It's not going to be like that. But it is significant enough to cause at least some catastrophic impacts are possible with this storm. Every single hurricane that we come across plays this kind of situation very differently. And the main threat with Beryl, I would say, is going to be storm surge and damaging winds. This isn't moving at 5-10 miles an hour. Right now, the latest advisory is west at 21. So this storm, honestly, as far as tropical cyclones go, is booking it towards the west.
I just want to show you from the National Hurricane Center's last advisory where they expect the very center of the storm to go, and you were looking at that as well, Ethan. Very close to the island of Carriacou, north of Grenada itself, still part of Grenada, looks to be very, very close to the center point of where that landfall might be. Still don't know yet. Of course, it can throw a few wobbles, but that's the main island of those small ones along that little chain, St. Vincent the Grenadines and Grenada. And you zoom back out and you can see the cone itself there. That was the last update from the 8 a.m. advisory, and we'll be getting the 11 a.m. data in earnest fairly soon from the National Hurricane Center. And as soon as we get that, we'll let you know.
Nathan, I wasn't the one that really posted. Geo actually posted a comparison of Beryl 24 hours ago to now. Show that on stream. Look at the remarkable difference in the past 24 hours.
Okay, yes, we do have that. Oh, there it is. Beryl 24 hours ago and Beryl now.
Now.
Enough said, really, isn't it? So that's what we're up against.
So I was doing a little bit of research earlier, and if Beryl at the upcoming advisory is upgraded to winds of 130 miles an hour, I'm not entirely sure what the storm name was to beat to become the strongest June storm on record. It's not very much. It was Audrey. So the
Yeah.
record to beat is 125 miles an hour, 946 millibars.
Which I think is way too
Obviously-
low, by the way, for Audrey. I think it was stronger.
Obviously, I don't think that the pressure is going to be beat for a little bit.
Oh no.
But the winds, I think, we're probably already beating that in the winds, if you ask me.
The record pressure Alex of 2010 had at 946 or 947.
I thought Audrey was close to that as well. I'm sure Audrey
It
was
is.
in
It's 946.
Oh,
Yeah.
are they tied?
Yeah, Alex and Audrey are tied with the pressure. 946.
Well, you do have to keep in mind that that Alex's pressure was. I mean, Alex was only a Category 2 hurricane at peak.
Let's not
And-
forget that both of those storms
And,
we're comparing to were in the Gulf as well. Completely different part of the
Yeah,
ocean.
yeah, and that too. The Western Gulf too, and let's not forget that Alex's pressure was a lot lower than average because Alex was massive,
Huge.
in the southwestern Gulf.
I mean, that makes sense because, of course, that correlates to larger storms, usually the lower pressure.
But Phil Klossbach has also done his research, and he is saying that the record for the earliest Category 4 hurricane in the Atlantic on record is Dennis, and that was at 0 UTC or midnight UTC on July 8th. So
Oh my god,
we're
we're gonna shatter that record.
about a week
that's
ahead.
We're
a
8 days ahead of it. What the heck?
Audrey was a 4, though. Fight me. But despite that, you know, it's absolutely upper echelon, and even though in days way back when small storms like this may have also happened and have been missed, perhaps, but certainly to see it in front of us right now, it's quite a spectacle, and the eye continuing to clear out. We haven't actually mentioned eye temperature yet. I heard earlier on that it was about 19 degrees Celsius.
No idea. Quick trivia question for you though, Nathan. When was the last time that a hurricane entered the Caribbean through the Leeward Islands and made it all the way to the Yucatan Peninsula without dropping below hurricane status?
The
know
Leeward
the answer.
Islands or all of the islands?
All of the islands.
Well, I know you said earlier it was Dean.
Well, it is Dean. That's the answer. Dean was the last one to do it. And that was in August, I think.
Yeah, August.
And here we are in June into July. I mean, Beryl is truly a unprecedented event because of how early it is. There is no storm in history in June and early July that compares to where Beryl is now and the tracking the kind of impacts that it's doing. You have to go outside of this time period to find a storm like this.
So, I just wanted to add, it seems as though the NOAA flight into Beryl is finished. Air Force flight is still inside the storm and is likely going to do one more fix. I think the National Hurricane Center will be waiting on that to get an accurate reading of pressure and potentially any sort of wind increase. But yeah, looks like one more fix is coming up before we have to wait on the next session of reconnaissance flights sometime later today.
Now, I'm assuming that those flights are going to be very regular now.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be doing 6 hourly fixes.
6 hourly
Like
fixes.
Every 6 hours is going to be reconnaissance flights going into the storm.
Rightfully so. And I would imagine that they'd probably continue that all the way up to its Yucatan landfall and beyond some. Now, anything past the Yucatan Peninsula is extremely, extremely, extremely uncertain. And right now, I would very much like people to focus on Beryl right now up to day 5, and that's going to be up to Friday, I believe. Don't focus on anything beyond that. Obviously, if you are in the southwestern United States or U.S. Gulf Coast, so think of Louisiana and the Texas coastline, as well as the Mexico coast, in particular near where Alberto just made landfall just a few weeks ago. That will be my region to watch for this storm. Now, where is it going to go in that region? I can't say, but we'll cross that road whenever we get to it. Let's just get through Beryl, making landfall or making its pass through the Lesser Antilles, and once Beryl gets, I'd say probably around south of Jamaica, that's when we can really start talking about its U.S. impacts, if at all. It could go to Mexico too.
Yeah.
Or another option is it's a sheared storm as it moves into the Yucatan, and the land interaction from the Yucatan has it being a very weak storm in the Bay of Campeche, and it dies in the Bay of Campeche.
Don't give us
Could do
false
that
hope,
too.
Ethan, man.
I mean, I'm just saying the land impacts,
I know.
land interaction whenever you have rising shear does some mean stuff to tropical cyclones. It can destroy them.
Now, I was just looking through some of the temperatures, satellite temperatures of the eye right now, currently around 14 degrees, if anyone was wondering. We'll probably,
Wow.
yes, fair temperature. Feel free to send in questions right now. We're happy to do that. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. Noel's apparently been binge watching our old videos. Jesper there as well, thanks for your support. What was the last time Atlantic had a Category 3 hurricane in June? Was it Alma 66? That was one.
Yes.
And
There's only been 3. Well, 2. That was Alma and Audrey. Those are only 2. Well, and now Beryl.
and Nelson reckons that Ethan's getting old. Oh dear.
Thank you.
All A names though, weren't they? And you know, I still think Alex was stronger as well in 2010, but all the A names it tended to be back then, but this time it's a B name. Hurricane Altony Brom was asking about lightning strikes in Hurricane Beryl right now. I did have a look a little bit earlier on. Earlier this morning, there was some lightning going on in the eye. I don't know what's going on right now. And what's the estimated storm surge? Now, yesterday they were calling for the storm surge to be 5 to 7 feet. I imagine that estimate's gone up. They're saying 6 to 9 feet at the last update. So I don't know what they'll say at the next one, whether it will still be that, but potentially 9 feet of storm surge there in the areas of onshore winds. We will be getting the National Hurricane Centre's update fairly soon, and then we'll be finishing this hour of coverage, and we'll probably be taking a break after that, ahead of much more live commentary later on this evening. But in the meantime, when we finish up, we'll be able to direct you towards the automated stream, which is running all of the time and has the latest information as well. It's also running on our YouTube channel. Do we think it will be a Category 4 at the next update? I think it's going to be a coin toss as to whether they call it a Category 4 or not, from what I've been hearing from our team, from Recon. I think it's going to be a borderline. We'll see what they say.
I believe they will.
Yeah, it's going to be close.
Honestly,
Odds of Beryl tracking north. How north is the question, really, isn't it? It's not going to do a flat out right turn. It's
when it's going to maintain the westwards direction until Yucatan Peninsula, but after that, the high pressure system will not be there anymore. So possibly it's going to recur more to the north or northwestwards. So let's see. I mean, it's too far off yet, but I'm not sure that it's going to maintain the westwards direction after crossing or after making landfall, at least in the Yucatan Peninsula, if it does.
Now, if you look at the northern extent of this cone, you can see that the places implicated are potentially, to be honest, it doesn't go that far north on that cone. I mean, it's barely into Cuba. So make of that what you will. In the meantime, I'm just rigging up some more imagery that we might be able to show you, just some other viewpoints of the storm in the last few hours. There it is entering the scene in those last few frames, moving west-northwesterly right now towards the Lesser Antilles, of course. Barbados and Tobago will be the first places to see the worst conditions of the storm, and then it will be sailing through the Windward Islands, probably the northern islands of Grenada, and the southern part of St. Vincent and the Grenadines getting the worst impacts from the storm when it arrives. And that's all going to be tonight, overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. So 2 big questions awaiting us. What will the authorities run with at the advisory, and what will their forecast be is another very pertinent question, because we've got unconfirmed right now that they may be calling for a major hurricane all the way through the Caribbean, and that would be something that's...
They're not doing that.
I don't know, Ethan. They almost did it at their last advisory.
I mean, I think it's a possibility.
So
Conditions in the Western Caribbean just aren't going to be that favorable.
I guess there's a little bit of wind shear. I'm guessing you're going off of wind shear. So maybe there'll be some.
I remember that in dry air and eye wall pricing cycles. Because I mean, you're telling me that this storm isn't going to go through an eye wall pricing cycle in the next 5 days?
Ethan,
Hard out on that.
Very warm waters, high oceanic heat content. all the way through its forecast, and it's heading into an area where there isn't going to be very much land interaction. Its biggest obstacle, looking at the forecast, is Jamaica.
And
So
even that
winds in the area?
Jamaica ain't even that big.
I mean, Beryl is a really small hurricane, and even any single piece of land could make such a difference with the intensity. So, yeah, Jamaica, it's going to be like a kind of a shield for the Yucatan Peninsula, if it goes
Maybe.
closer to depending on how close goes to Jamaica.
Yeah, but the way it's going, much further southward deviation, it won't directly impact Jamaica, but or the strongest winds won't impact Jamaica. But there's the latest National Hurricane Center cone, and we'll have a brand new one fairly soon. Do we think it could possibly go through an IRO replacement cycle, was a comment from Mateo. I mean, it is pretty inevitable with all storms that there'll be an IRO replacement cycle at some point, but some succeed and others fail. But some of the classic storms, like Allen and Gilbert, they had cycles, didn't they, during their time? No, Allen had loads. It was an extremely powerful storm.
Irma had lots of eyeball replacement cycles as well.
Later on, when it was moving north of those islands, indeed.
Yeah.
Some crazy storms that have rolled through here in the past, but the ones we're talking about are much closer to the peak season than this one is, with, of course, Allen being probably the earliest one of those, being in the first week of August, and here we are in the last day of June, where usually we don't get anything much at all. And I should also point out that we went on the TCOS, our operations status turned code red today. That's only the 5th time we've done a backdating project back to the 60s on what the TCOS codes would have been. Only the 5th time it's happened in June.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Overall, June is a very quite a sedate month. Certainly compared to all the other months. How much ace has Beryl made so far? I have no idea. It's probably going to be maybe 4 or 5 points. Probably more than that, actually.
Yeah, probably like 8.
Yeah, it's probably getting up towards 10 points. Will we have a record early Category 5? Look, I am not going to say it's impossible at this point, but still unlikely.
The chances are low, but well, in
Yeah,
weather
chances are there,
nowadays,
but they're low.
weather nowadays, anything is possible. We've seen it many times in the past, where nothing really special is forecasted, and then boom.
It's a non-zero chance right now for Category 5 status. We gave
Actually,
a...
Nathan.
Yes.
Nathan, I did see something last night. This ship's model it had Beryl for rapid intensification to a Cat 5. It had a 26% chance for it.
26%.
Yeah, that's when it was only at 75 knots, by the way.
Wow. We've given a 2% chance of a Category 5 landfall on these islands. The chance of category, not landfall, but Category 5 conditions on the islands. But chances of it actually reaching that intensity, maybe just a tad higher than that. But we're still talking very low percentages, but we've got to make everyone aware of that. Speaking of ships, though, you were talking about all the cruise lines yesterday, Justin. Are they safely out of the area?
I'm gonna look at that right now. Give me a moment.
The answer for that is no. There's still a lot of cruise ships in the Grenada area. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it looks like they've mostly redirected. It looks like a lot of them moved south and north of the area, but I'm still looking at the map, and it does seem like
there's a lot of them by Grenada and Trinidad, yeah.
So I think they tried to redirect south, but it since the system has moved considerably more south than expected, it doesn't really look like they'll end up working to the best of what they expected.
I mean, what they could do is go along the coast of South America and just anchor the ship there.
But I don't know. They might be running out of time.
Yeah.
They might be running out of time, so... Hope everybody is okay on those cruise ships.
Yeah, the storm's moving at a decent speed. These ships, they tend to do, 20, 30 miles per hour?
Something like that,
steaming along. So they still have a little bit of time to evacuate, but it's cutting it a bit fine right now, especially. But the thing is, the earlier forecasts were a little bit further north, so they might have thought they could get away with it on Grenada, but and if it turns any further south, they're going to be running out of water to escape to.
Yep.
But but that's the story right now with what's going on over there. And from what we were hearing last night in the coverage, that St. Lucia had shut down basically, and I imagine all of these places are going to be shutting down services and whatnot during this storm. Hurricane warnings in effect for all of these, lots of these islands, just to reiterate those warnings just ahead of the next advisory, which should be in at any point in the next 15 minutes. There is a hurricane warning for Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada and Tobago, a tropical storm warning for Martinique, and a tropical storm watch for Dominica. We are expecting that the storm will make landfall either on St. Vincent and the Grenadines or Grenada as a Category 4. And we await their next update. Might they be waiting for more recon data, or are they done now?
No, recon.
There's still reconnaissance in there right now. I believe they're about to do one more intercept.
Oh, really? They may be waiting
Yeah.
on that.
I'm looking at the reconnaissance right now. It looks like they were just intercepting one of the rain bands.
Actually, yeah, Noah 3 is actually going back, yeah.
If
Here,
they
let
turn
me
around.
just make sure of that. Let me just make
And
sure.
AF 300 still sampling, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're not gonna get an eyeball pass within the next 15 minutes.
No, okay.
Yeah.
There could be
We're not
it's gonna
gonna
be a
have a
delay.
recon.
But they
Very
got like 100 knot winds already, so I don't know. There's a lot of confidence in a higher rate.
Updates out. They are going with 120 miles per hour, 964 millibars. And they are forecasting 140 miles an hour in 12 hours and 24 hours. And they are now forecasting a landfall at day 5 with the day 5 point at winds of 85 miles an hour. Day 4 point, 110 miles per hour.
So
120 miles an hour. That's
yeah, a forecast that I sort of expected there. I didn't think they would go above 140 miles per hour, really. But given 120 right now, we think that's a bit low, do we?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
that's
honestly, I think that's a bit low. I personally would have went with like 125, maybe 130.
And
Maybe.
125 would have been fine.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's just they don't have much confidence in the recon. So.
Astro Kane says, what will be the effects along coastal Venezuela? You've only got about maximum of a 15% chance of storm force winds, so most areas, if not all areas, shouldn't get any. But nonetheless, gusty winds, rough surf conditions, and they can obviously be a killer in themselves.
Oh, actually, we have a new alert too. The government of Trinidad has issued a tropical storm watch for Trinidad.
Oh,
Other than that, there's no change in the alerts.
tropical storm
Just
watch.
the discussion is here, Nathan. They say data from the Air Force and NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft this morning indicate that Beryl continues to rapidly intensify. Based on the latest data collected, the minimum pressure has fallen significantly to 964 millibars, and the maximum wind speed is now up to 120 miles an hour. That's all they say about the winds. Although Beryl is still on the small side, the wind field is a little larger than previously noted, with the tropical storm force winds estimated to extend upwards of 100 nautical miles in the center, and the hurricane force winds up to 25. Satellite images show that Beryl has a classic major hurricane pattern with a clear and circular eye and a symmetric cloud pattern surrounding it. Beryl continues to move swiftly westward at 18 knot, that is 21 miles an hour, steered by a strong subtropical ridge to the north. The hurricane has been moving a little to the south of the most model predictions over the past day or two. A continued quick west to the west-northwest motion is forecast over the next several days as the ridge remains the primary steering feature. This should take the core of Beryl across the Windward Islands Monday morning and then across much of the Caribbean Sea during the following few days. The National Hurricane Center forecast track has been nudged to the south of the previous prediction and lies very close to the various intensity aids. And this is what they say about the intensity forecast. The major hurricane has rapidly intensified since it formed a couple of days ago, and given the continued conducive environment for conditions and a compact inner core, it will likely strengthen some more through tonight. Beryl is expected to remain a very dangerous Category 4 hurricane when it moves through the Windward Islands. The models show a gradual increase in wind shear when the system moves across the Caribbean Sea, and that should cause Beryl's intensity to level off and then gradually weaken. However, Beryl is expected to remain a significant hurricane through the next 5 days. The intensity forecast is a little bit above the previous one, and a good agreement with models.
And their key messages are that Beryl's expected to be an extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane when it reaches the Windward Islands. It's a very dangerous situation, and residents in these areas should listen to local government emergency management officials for any preparedness and or evacuation orders. All preparations should be rushed to completion today. Potentially catastrophic hurricane force winds, life-threatening storm surge, and damaging waves are expected when Beryl passes over portions of the Windward Islands, with the highest risk of the core in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada beginning early Monday morning. Hurricane warnings obviously in effect. Heavy rainfall, localized flooding, and interests in Hispaniola, Jamaica, and the Cayman Islands, and the remainder of the northwestern Caribbean should monitor its progress. And once again pointing out large forecast uncertainty at days 4 and 5. Basically, don't take it the forecast for granted. And speaking of the forecast, we will have that cone as soon as we can get our hands on it. We don't just at the moment, but from what we've heard, it is a slight southward tweak onto the forecast. I'll be interested to see where its eventual landfall might be on day 5.
The landfall point, I believe, it's south of Cozumel and Tulum.
Yeah, I suppose we could piece it together ourselves before the cone comes out by using the lat long. So 19.2 north, 88.3 west. So that would call for a landfall in the southern part of Quintana Roo, Mexico, in very low populated areas, not far from.
It looks like that the landfall location is halfway between Belize City and Tulum.
Just north of Chetumal.
Yeah, so that's probably near Maha.
I was trying to. The text was too small. I couldn't read that out without making myself look a fool. Mahahual?
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
Something like that. Small place there along the Yucatan Peninsula. So if you've just joined us, the update from the National Hurricane Center is that this is still a very strong Category 3 hurricane, and in their words, still rapidly intensifying. I still don't have a copy of the 11 a.m. advisory proper yet. I don't know if anyone else does. But what we understand is that a tropical storm watch was issued for Trinidad at that update.
Yep.
But I still don't have that on my screen yet.
I have it.
Oh. Does it say anything else of note?
Well, it says 120 miles per hour.
I have it here now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It
tropical
says
storm
tropical
watch.
storm. Says tropical storm force winds up to 30% to 40%. There's a 30 to 40% chance of them reaching to the Yucatan Peninsula. So that's interesting.
Yeah, not much that we haven't already said in that 11 a.m. advisory. That's just that the headline is very dangerous major hurricane Beryl still strengthening as it approaches the Windward Islands, and life-threatening winds and storm surge expected there beginning early Monday morning. We were wondering what our live streaming schedule would look like. I was actually planning on doing coverage overnight tonight, but it looks like it's going to be early in the morning that we'll actually be doing it. So I expect that we will probably be doing a short stream again tonight and start full coverage early hours of tomorrow morning local time, maybe something like 4 a.m. I'm not sure yet. But that's a little indicator on what our plans might be for this storm. But obviously during all of that time, it will be very dangerously moving through these areas that we're very concerned about at this point. We still don't have the new cone yet. This was the last one, and that was the
on my phone
8 a.m. advisory. We should get the 11 at any time.
The landfall location on the Yucatan Peninsula, Nathan, is just northeast of a town called Mahahual.
Yeah.
It's just northeast of there.
So it's only a tiny
and
movement
that
south.
little bay to the northeast of there. Imagine
That's
to the peninsula down towards that town. Imagine like halfway between that. That's the landfall location that they're forecasting.
The bay northeast there is
Okay.
Bahia del Espiritu Santo.
There's the update then. The cone, new cone there, taking that major hurricane. You can see I think the most notable part of this is that there's a major hurricane dot right next to Jamaica now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is close.
Oh dear.
Wait, let me just make sure I have the right one.
So that's Wednesday morning, passing just off the coast of Kingston, Jamaica there, moving west-northwestwards. And then possibly, people are going to read a lot into this, I'm sure, but just a slight northwestward turn to the end of that cone as well.
Oh.
Yep. Okay, I've got the cones up on my screen, Nathan.
We already got it, Ethan, but talk us through it.
So here's the old forecast cone,
Oh, okay, you're showing us the last one.
and here's the new one. So overall, just a
so-
very slight westward shift on that day 5 point.
It is. It's westward more than it is southward, really, isn't it?
The cone overall has been pulled farther away from Jamaica too.
Oh, so that's good news for Jamaica.
Just a wee bit, although still very close for comfort. Probably hurricane force winds still impacted there. And also not very long away. It's just 72 hours until we get to that point. So if it were me, I'd be looking at probably issuing watches tonight.
I'm shocked that that Haiti didn't issue any.
Already? Now? No, I think it's... Well... I think it's a little bit early.
And it's not even in the cone of uncertainty. I'm not sure if Haiti should issue any kind of warnings. Maybe just storm surge or the sea level increasing in the coast, but I'm not sure that they actually will get any kind of storm effects directly by Beryl.
Let's get some questions. In the longer range, will Beryl track towards Houston?
Too far away to
but
guarantee.
we won't have a generalized idea for maybe the next 2-3 days.
Kat says, do you think Beryl will undergo an eyewall replacement cycle soon? I don't think so, looking at it. And the eye, in my opinion, continuing to improve there.
I don't think that it'll undergo one in the next 12 hours, but maybe beyond that, possibly.
Thinking like the 24 to 48 hour region.
You could see one.
Caloxylus says, the past 3 GFS runs show Beryl making a Texas landfall. Should any Texas residents be worried? Just monitor the storm at the moment. You're nowhere near the cone yet. It will be at least another probably 2, probably more 3 or 4 days until you possibly might enter a cone. So until then, not much to say. How far is Beryl from Barbados? Earlier on, it was around 700 and nearly 800 kilometers. As of right now, trying to get an update for you on that. But I imagine it's somewhere around the 700 kilometer range. Oh, I'm sorry, it's much less than that now, actually. It's 583 kilometers away from Barbados. In miles, that is around 400, just less than 400 miles. And let's see what else we've got right now. Some people mentioning about the raw ADT at 6.1 and how viable is that measurement. Well, 2 things to say about that. One, I think that is quite viable, but the big caveat and the what trumps that ADT reading, the satellite estimate, is that we've got direct observations in the storm right now from those planes, and obviously that takes precedence over anything that we might see from satellite. So it could look like the strongest storm we've ever seen, but if Recon are in there and only getting 100-mile-per-hour winds, then it won't be. But as it is right now, Recon have gotten winds, some are suggesting supportive of Category 4 status. Satellite would support Category 4 status. National Hurricane Center running their advisory at 120 miles per hour, which is a mid-range Category 3. Do we think Barbados will have 4 to 6 feet of storm surge despite the hurricane being so far south? And how can people in the Grenadines protect themselves and property before Beryl? Would anyone like to answer that?
I mean, I think 4 to 6 feet is possible in the Barbados area. And to protect yourself in Grenada, you just got to stock up on supplies that will protect you from the storm. Stock up on accessories and food. Just be prepared to not enter out of your house for a little bit.
Oh, gee, it's time to shut her up, I think. Try and protect windows, particularly. They can
Yeah.
be very dangerous, of course, when they get smashed by the strong winds. But obviously, secure any loose objects that are outside. One of the biggest risks from very strong hurricane force winds are flying projectiles. And obviously, don't go out during the storm. If you get the eye of the storm, don't venture out either, because many a person has been stunned by the arrival of the other side of the storm. As a matter of fact, such an event, I think, killed about 300 people back when we didn't know much about hurricanes, back in the Miami hurricane of 1926, I think it was. A lot of fatalities there were caused by people being outside in the eye. We're going to be finishing up shortly, but after that the stream will automatically redirect you to our automated feed, which is running all the satellite imagery, and once we finish up, we'll give it a few moments and I'll be updating it with all the new info, but we'll have plenty more coverage obviously later this evening as well. There's obviously tons that we're going to be talking about over the course of when we get towards either this evening, we will probably doing another stream, or tomorrow morning, which is obviously going to be our main feature, I think, because the storm is going to be really knocking on the door by that point. Go ahead.
A question. Do you think this storm is a Category 4 yet at all?
No. Well, borderline, I think. From what I've heard from our team about the recon observations, in particular, I think, did you say at 113 knot drop sond earlier? Is that what you said?
Yeah, there was drops
It was,
on
yeah,
that
actually.
surface wind of 113 knots, yeah.
So that's right on the borderline there for Category 4. 113, 114 is the border between those categories. So if it were me, I would have put it at 125 miles per hour at this advisory.
That would have been my choice as well.
Yeah. The forecast, though, I think is a decent forecast. I don't think they're going too conservative. I think there's still a lot of uncertainty as to how strong it might get, but from a personal level, it's going to be a Category 4 either way. So extremely dangerous storm with extremely dangerous impacts on its way, with very powerful winds. Any final comments from the rest of our team right now? We're finishing up here.
Nope.
Oh.
Well, someone has said, is Recon the same as the Hurricane Hunter observations?
Yes.
Recon's just the term uses that, isn't it? It's just a
Yeah,
term.
we shorten things up quite often. Reconnaissance planes,
Actually, Nathan, hold off on ending the live stream for a little bit, because AF300 is about to make an iPass right now.
Really?
Yeah, probably in the next, 10 to 15 minutes, we should have more data.
Well, I don't know what it will say, but we are going to be finishing up now, Justin. But if it does have anything really interesting, then I'm sure we can post an update about it. I don't know if it will. We already got quite a bit of data before, but it's probably going to show a deepening storm either way, into the 960s right now, and I expect by tonight it's probably going to be a Category 4. Stay safe out there, stay tuned. We'll have a lot more updates on our channel. You can join our Discord server for tropical weather chat at any time as well, discord.gg/force13. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more updates, which we will have throughout the course of today and on our social media. But in the meantime, this storm is getting much more powerful, and we're now going to throw it to our automated feed.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.